What's up, everybody? Bill Tendo back, and we're gonna do the new year, and we're gonna do it right. I want to get back to doing some cool game reviews and some stuff like that. So, if you're interested in seeing all of that, hit that like and subscribe button. So now we're gonna talk about a bunch of Nintendo 64 games that you may have never played. It's been nearly 25 years since the debut of the Nintendo 64. So it's safe to say people have discovered every Nintendo 64 game in terms like hidden gems and underrated treasures that just use as bait titles for games people already know and enjoy. That doesn't mean that there aren't games that are well less known, either because of region exclusivity or a smaller late production run and a lack of advertisement. These games aren't perfect. They obviously have flaws, or more people would be talking about them with fond memories. But that doesn't mean they aren't worth playing. Imperfect games can be some of the most fun. Let's explore the bowels of the N64 library for some new games to add to your collection and try for yourself. The first game I want to get into is Charlie's Blast Territory. Now, hold on a second. I'm trying to do things differently. Boom, there we go. This puzzler was a remake of a reskin of the 1997 PlayStation title, The Bombing Islands Kid Clown Craze Puzzle, featuring Kid Clown of rare NES game fame. Charlie takes over as the main protagonist in the N64 version, tasked with clearing away a bunch of rivers blocked by the King of Industry using explosives. Core gameplay is to clear various puzzles within the time limit while avoiding obstacles. And the N64 version adds 4-player multiplayer to the mix, something the PS1 title lacked. The game received average reviews, regarded as a decent puzzle game, with scores as high as IGN at 6.9 to 10, down to a game out of 10. Sorry, down the game in form 3 out of 10. This should not discourage fans of the genre, though, as N64 in its smaller library didn't include many puzzle games, and this one has a ton of levels and variety. The next game I want to get into is Golden Nugget 64, published by EA, back before they became the evil empire they are today, and still made a couple good games. Golden Nugget 64 is special as it's the only gambling casino game released outside of Japan who had tons of pachinko and mahjong games on the Nintendo 64. The game has both a single-player mode where you try to run up a huge bankroll and multiplayer to complete with all your friends in games like blackjack, craps, roulette, and various kinds of poker and slot machines. Golden Nugget 64 even received above-average reviews, but if you aren't into card and casino games, I'm sure you hardly knew it was around because it had a severe lack of promotion and fanfare. So this next one is actually a really, really good one. Bomberman 64 arcade version. It came out in 2001. Now, this was a Japan-only release. In Japan, Bomberman 64 is known as Baku Bomberman. So this Japan exclusive was simply known as Bomberman 64. Fans of the older NES, SNES, Genesis Bomberman games will be right at home with this one. The classic mode has you defeating baddies and progressing through stages, each with multiple exits and branching paths. Multiplayer lets you play up to 4 players versus with any combination of humans or AI opponents. The surprise here is the Bomberman Park mode. The player can walk around the park and talk to the locals and play various mini-games. In each mini-game, there's a high score to be beaten. With each record broken, it increases the score card of the player. When your scorecard is high enough, you can access new areas of the park and new mini games. An amazing game, simply overlooked because it never received an international release and its late release date. Fantastic game. Guys, this is the first time I'm trying out a solid script, so I know you can tell that I'm reading, but I'm trying something new. I'm trying to do better content. Our next game is going to be Robotron 64 from 1998. Robotron 64 is a multi-directional shooter and a port of Robotron X, which itself is an updated version of the 1982 dual-stick shooter Robotron 2084. The game was originally scheduled to be released by Midway in the summer of 97, but the game was put on hiatus before it would see a new publisher and a release date in January of 1998. Robotron 64 is one of the few N64 games to support 2 joysticks per player. When using a single controller, you can move with the stick and aim in 8 directions with the C buttons. It's also possible to swap these around. However, plug in any 2 Nintendo 64 controllers and you could use a stick from each for action. While it does not have multiplayer, it does have a whopping 200 stages of arcade madness to overcome, and that's a lot of game. So they packed a lot into this game. You don't hear a lot about it. You can use 2 controllers with both thumbsticks plugged into the 1 and 2 port. Fantastic game. Check it out. Our next game is going to be Sasume Taisen Puzzle Dama. The full name of this game is actually Sasume Taisen Puzzle Dama Token Maramoto Cho. And I know I probably didn't really pronounce all that properly. It's a puzzle game released Japan only, developed and published by Konami, and is a port of the arcade and PlayStation game Sasume Taisen Puzzle Dama, originally released in 96, but features characters and gameplay from the spin-off Taisen Toke Dama. The gameplay is similar to Puyo Puyo, where the player must beat the opponent by creating combos, which is involving matching 3 balls or more of the same color simultaneously. Doing so will fill the opponent's side with colored blocks from either top or bottom. There are some character balance issues. I'm not going to spoil the fun and reveal them. Play it for yourself, but they don't all hurt the overall value of the game. There's also a fully featured bowling game included if you tire of matching colors and shapes. Game Rant also listed this game in its 10 best N64 games that never left Japan. So keep that in mind. Sasume Taisen Puzzle Dama. If you can get a hold of it, any Nintendo 64 from America and Japan can play each other's games with just a very small modification that anybody can do. It's a physical modification. It's not software. It's a little piece of plastic that's in your way that keeps you from being able to play it. Okay, let's get on to our next game, which is Famista 64. 1997, Famista 64, known as Family Stadium 64, is a baseball video game developed and published in Japan by Namco. Their first Nintendo title since 1994, due to a long-lasting argument between Namco and Nintendo that started in the 80s. The game was originally titled World Stadium 64 and was planned to be a sequel to World Stadium, but was changed early on, even though it is still technically the 12th entry in the Family Stadium series. Namco America's spokesperson Chris Bull also confirmed a North American release, but it never happened. With amazingly crisp graphics and easy to pick up and play mechanics, fan of baseball games should absolutely pick this one up, even though it was a Japan-only release. Reviews were nearly 7 out of 10 or above, so even the critics liked it. I would like to say that for me and my money, Powerful Pro Baseball is the best baseball series. Also Japan exclusive. Famista 64 is a very close second for me. Very, very fun games. I didn't like the American baseball games. They tried a little too hard to be a little too serious. And with the Japanese baseball games, there's a lot more fun involved. A little more whimsy. All right. Our next game is Taz Express from 2000. You might notice a recurring theme on this list, and that's puzzle games. Turns out that when you introduce a brand new system with amazing 3D graphics, the average game enthusiast is going to gravitate towards action-adventure sports games to get the most out of the fancy new hardware. And puzzle games are going to get kicked to the curb. Taz Express is a classic Looney Tunes-themed puzzler where the titular hero starts a courier business to earn some extra money, delivering packages with his crazy unstoppable motion. Express combines puzzles, platforming, racing, and exploration in an imaginative way to create a game that is extremely unique with plenty of levels and challenges. This was a PAL exclusive entry and released in late 2000, so it was destined to not sell many copies or end up on a lot of players' wish lists, which means this only came out in Europe and Australia. It did not come out in America or Japan. The way you're going to play this now is emulation or flashcards like an EverDrive. But totally worth it. Definitely check it out. It's a fun game. Next game up, which is our second to last, is going to be Knife Edge Nose Gunner from 1998. This first-person on-the-rails shooter is peculiar, and people who have experienced it wondered why this game turned out the way it did. A video game accessory company called Nugget International, previously known as Nugget, were working on a Nintendo 64 light gun titled the Lunar Gun. The space-themed firearm came with your standard fare of light gun features such as auto-reload, auto-fire, semi-auto-fire, and special button for things such as grenades and ammunition. It eventually was only brought to the PlayStation, and Knife Edge dropped adding the gun peripheral sometime during development. There ended up being only a couple of other on-the-rail shooters on the system, depending on how you classify Star Fox 64 and Pokemon Snap, to go along with Sin and Punishment. But they were clearly designed to function using exclusively the controller. Due to all the weirdness, the game received below average reviews, and probably deservedly so, as it is on the slow side and didn't really shine next to its system counterparts. Still, it's worth the playthrough, and if you can beat the only... You can say you beat the only light gun game on the Nintendo 64 without a light gun. Sin and Punishment, Japanese exclusive. I'm sure you heard of it. It's an on-the-rail shooter. Absolutely phenomenal. Getting harder and harder to get just because it's such a banger of a game. And now we're going to finish up with Yaku 2, Setsujin Cordo. And I know I said that all wrong. Developed and published by Athena, who mostly made Mahjong games at this period in time, came up with the idea to make this game as a sequel to the Super Famicom adventure game Yaku, with a text-based game, visual novel, sound novel, in the choose-your-own-path style. The player can read the story up to a point and then has to make a choice about what the characters do by selecting one of the various options. This may sound boring, but the game is a survival thriller that takes place on a haunted ship, with the protagonist gathering clues as to why the accident happened, and without running as plot, leading to multiple endings that can either be dark, foreboding, or lighthearted. Being a text adventure in Japanese, this one doesn't get a lot of play in the rest of the world, but there is a fan translation that is almost done and is in the works, or you can use your favorite software to get you all the way through the reading. So I would definitely say check this game out. There is a way to do that. You can simply use the Google Translate on your phone and hold it up to the screen like babao, and it will translate everything that's on the screen for you. You don't need any software. I use that for a lot of Japanese games. Visual novels are very popular now, but they were not really the standard back then. And especially, there's very few survival horror games associated with Nintendo 64. I know we had a really bad Resident Evil game and a couple other games, but it's still a good one, you know? Anyway, guys, like and subscribe. I'm going to do more game reviews. I'm sorry if this sounded a little robotic. I'm just getting used to reading actual script because I feel like I can do more if I don't just run off the top of my head all the time. All right. Thank you.